So now we've had the second half of Ben Carson and the first half of Marco Rubio. And the second half of Ben Carson was some unbelievably soft questions from Anderson Cooper. What do you like to do to relax? Let's go back to the fact that you're an amazing brain surgeon, right? So this, after Anderson Cooper, when he moderated debate between Democrats, asked one incredibly tough question after another. Socialist, this, that, you're going to explode the debt. What's wrong with you?
How do you pay for everything?
Right, yeah, how you can't pay for it. It was almost like a cross-examination. And I said at the time, as I always do, I don't mind if he does it also with the Republicans. No. And here, this has literally been the softest questions I have seen at any debate.
Has he asked Rubio a question?
He did in the beginning. He asked a couple of incredible softballs to him as well.
Oh, do you feel the Rubio mentum?
Yeah, the Marco mentum. I mean, that's the softest question I've ever heard. And then, gave him an opportunity to call Ted Cruz a liar one more time and explain why his opponent is so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, super soft.
Like one of his hardest questions was, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yes.
Like that's actually the top 3 hardest questions he's asked tonight.
That's right. And because the rest have been helping the candidates rather than challenging the candidates, right? Your job isn't to hurt the candidates, but it is to challenge them. Otherwise, this whole exercise becomes pointless. It's just one giant talking point. Now, when you get to the talking points, I think so far Marco Rubio has done an outstanding job. It doesn't seem like he's a robot. It seems like he's done a good job of faking being genuine, right? Because all these answers are very much studied, practiced, polled, and talked to consultants about, et cetera. But, he's delivering them in a really good way. He gave more details in his student loan answer than almost any Republican I've ever seen. John mentioned more than Donald Trump has given in his entire campaign.
Most of his business plans included.
And he had a couple of funny lines that the audience liked. And he had an actual human moment where he said, remember, African Americans do perceive things a little bit differently. Let's look at it from their perspective on when they get pulled over by cops and stuff, which, again, I almost never see from a Republican. So, to be fair, I really think Marco Rubio is killing it here.
Yeah.
And I often talk about, the pundits will say, and I say here, too, the pundits will love this. They will. But in this case, I think they probably should love it.
Yeah, I think so. I predicted he would win. I think he will. Look, he gave the compassion, but then you have to weigh that with, I don't know that there's a government solution to those problems, as in I'll acknowledge it, which is progress, but I ain't gonna do anything about it. And then you get into I think he's not as O'Malley as O'Malley. I think a lot of people will watch him and they'll think that he is speaking extemporaneously. We know that he's not. There's not one of those sentences he hasn't said before in 20 different cities throughout South Carolina and Nevada. But I think a lot of people will. What's that?
And in front of the mirror.
In front of the mirror as well.
I want to dispel the notion that he hasn't practiced in front of the mirror, because he has.
Best move he made all night, by the way, was getting up from that stool, because your feet being on the rung below you is not a good look. I said he looked like one of the thumb monkeys, and I stand by it. But once you get to the specifics on these policies, he says, lower taxes, less regulation. And if you add one regulation, you have to get rid of a regulation, which doesn't make any sense. It's another version of the every bill should fit on 3 papers. It's this need to have absolute numbers of things that is a characteristic of conservative ideology. It's simplistic thinking.
You shouldn't get seduced by the fact that he showed 5% compassion, which is record-breaking for a Republican.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's still lower taxes, less regulation, and cut Social Security, which is what he said at the end.
Yeah.
And that's a disaster.